Let's bring in the panel. Retired Navy Captain Brent Sadler, a former Pentagon official and senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation, and retired Vice Admiral Robert Harward, former Deputy Commander of U.S. Central Command and member of the Iran Policy Project at the Jewish Institute for National Security of America. Gentlemen, thank you both for coming on. Brent Sadler, to you first. I want to put this up. This is CNN. They're exclusive, writing here, "We need to teach the Yankees a lesson," quoting, "Iran warns vessels to steer clear of U.S. warships. It goes on to say, "We advise you to keep a distance of at least 10 miles from the warships for your safety, because sometimes we need to teach Yankees a lesson with missiles and drones." A voice was heard saying on VHF Channel 16, the radio frequency used by international ships for urgent communications. It doesn't appear to me, Brent Sadler, or a lot of people, that Iran is really in the best position to be teaching lessons at this point. What do you think?
No, they just got a spanking, so I think it was President Trump that's been doing the education there. And as a Southerner, I take a little bit of exception to the Yankee comment, but I think we know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I think we do too. Meantime, Admiral, to you, because the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, offered this warning to the world, to Iran, but mostly it was kind of wide scale. Watch.
Iran now claims that they have a right to control an international waterway. They claim that they have a right to control it. What is the world going to do about that? Is the world going to accept that Iran now controls an international waterway? Because if the world is prepared to accept that, then be ready, because there's like 10 other countries that are going to start doing the same thing in their international waterways.
Is it a fair point, Admiral? What do you think?
Without a doubt. This is international waters, and you can't give an inch to the Iranians. But again, as we've seen with the Iranians, the bulk of this is just rhetoric. They don't have capabilities other than the drones, some missiles, small arms fires from these small boats. So it's more rhetoric in operation. And again, you couldn't pick two worse ships to go after. These are the most advanced counter-UAS systems, electronics, small arms guns. So they're prepared for that sort of stuff. And so it is just a little tit of tat. But we do have to remember, going after those targets, Bandar Abbas, Bandar Khamir, Qeshm Island, where these small boats operated, are fair game, especially if they're continuing to try to harass us. And it can get a lot worse than that. The Iranians haven't picked up on that yet.
Yeah, what do you make, Brent Sadler, of the language being used? You had the president saying it was a love tap. You had the admiral just saying tit for tat. You had, the CENTCOM people saying, well, this is low-level kinetic action. I guess it's a way to say when you keep firing during a ceasefire, you have to kind of try to tamp it down a little bit, right?
I think it's geographically constrained, so it's important to note that neither side is saying that this violates the wider ceasefire that's still in effect as these negotiations kind of trudge along. But again, it also downplaying what the response from the U.S. side to the Iranians is to kind of, as the admiral's point is, there's a lot more that can come their way if they continue to tweak the tail of the eagle in this case, the United States Navy and Marine Corps. So I think there's a lot more that could be coming. I think it's overdue that now that we're finally going after the bases these small boats are operating out of. And should they do it again, I think they're going to get an even larger education.
I find it interesting as we talk about this back and forth, because the Washington Post had the following headline here. Put this up on the screen. U.S. intelligence says Iran can outlast Trump's Hormuz blockade for months. I mean, we've been told again and again, Admiral, that the economy in Iraq is on the brink, that they might have to shut in their oil wells. Holding on for months seems to be a bit of an overstatement in that viewpoint. What do you think about this?
Well, I think they want to stay in power. Survival is their end state. So they don't care about the Iranian people. If they're going to go hungry and suffer, that's fine, as long as they have enough guns to put them down when they revolt. So, yeah, they're going to say that. But the real story becomes what's happening in Iran. What are the Iranian people have had enough and can't survive without food and those things and can move. And some of these activities continue to highlight how impotent the regime in Iran is. They really don't have much left in their game. And so I think the president knows he's in control of the time span, not the regime. And again, escalation works in our favor, not theirs. So if they want to continue on this path, they'll continue to suffer and put the regime at risk. And that's the end state I think you're seeing from our Gulf partners. They want us to continue taking the fight to the regime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a very effective point there, Brent Sadler, because the truth is, you look at both of these sides, and it certainly appears that the United States could hold on for months and months and months and be just fine.
No, absolutely. I think the commentary, at least the rumors that Saudi Arabia and Kuwait were not happy and were withholding access to the bases, I think it was they were expecting a much harsher response from the U.S., what you saw in the last 24, 48 hours. And I think the Admiral was making a similar point here. So we have a growing coalition or a common alliance of interest that wants to push back against the Iranians and certainly will not be satisfied with any interdiction or any type of interference by the Iranians now and well into the future to that shipping. So that's hardening. But the real clock on this is, beyond the Iranian regime's ability to keep muscle on the street, it's also going to be, can they keep China in their corner? And the Chinese also are not getting the oil to fuel their economy. Their tolerance level is a lot higher, or a lot lower than the Iranians in this regard. And it'll be interesting what happens at the summit next week.
Yeah, the Chinese are going to be looking elsewhere for oil. Brent Sadler, Admiral Harward, thank you both for coming on. We appreciate it.